It's so annoying because I'm trying to figure out a spotlight that doesn't make a lot of noise because I have a really good spotlight, but it's super noisy. And I don't like this one because it's literally a spotlight. Like, it only lights up that area right there. But whatever, it's fine. We're dealing with it. So I recently uploaded a video about how, where I talk about like influencers disclosing that they use FaceTune to edit their photos, and it also kind of tied into the video that I uploaded about Khloe Kardashian and her over-edited selfie or photo, whatever you want to call it. I guess it wasn't, I keep calling it a selfie. It wasn't a photo that she took of herself. Anyway, that light keeps drifting. If you see it drift, let me know. If you see it drift, let me know. So I was thinking about that stuff. I was reading comments, and it's super interesting. And something that I want to do on this channel is kind of like share the comments that I receive from you guys. And do I have audio? Okay, cool. Sorry, my mic has broken so many times, and I'm just like, I can't tell you how many videos I've filmed, and I've had to like just scrap them completely. Anyway, I thought something that I wanted to do on this channel is respond to, like, pick out, I mean, obviously, like, I respond to your comments, but I wanted to pick out the ones that really stood out to me and kind of like respond to them here, so that we're kind of like, you know, continuing the conversation. Anyway, once again, we're discussing FaceTune. And if you didn't see that video, I'll link it somewhere, because you should watch it just to get an idea of like where I stand. But basically, if I can sum it up, my question to you was, should we give influencers a pass? The ones who are disclosing that they use FaceTune to edit their features. And when I say this, I'm not talking about, you know, correcting distortions from photography, but because that is something that like I use it for, because obviously like your phone, when you're taking a photo with your phone, it creates distortions. And I've talked about this in a previous video where I think it was the one with Khloe, where I talk about the difference between like taking a photo of yourself with your phone and with like a regular camera like this. And obviously the higher quality of the camera, the less distortion there's going to be to your features. Anyway, I'm not talking about like putting detail back into your sparkly eyeshadow because it was lost in the image. I'm talking about like people who like make their nose look tinier and their lips look bigger and their jaw look like it doesn't exist. I'm talking about that shit. Anyway, so I was surprised by quite a few comments that I received, and I did talk about this a little bit in the FaceTune video because at first I was very like shocked by some of the comments that I was seeing in the video where I talked about Khloe. So I want to respond to some of these. Anyway, so I'm not going to read anybody's name, but you know. So this person says, as a 16-year-old, this topic is really interesting. This was from my FaceTune video, by the way. This topic is really interesting to hear from you. All of my friends FaceTune their faces and bodies, and some people hide it, some people are open about it. Although it's so common that the girls have been teaching the dudes how to edit their pics, and I have guy friends doing the same. It's really crazy, and I must admit I do it too. It's the justification of, oh, I don't really look that way, I don't really look like that anyway. It's just a bad picture, and editing yourself to make you look more like yourself, if that makes any sense. Another thing we say a lot is that we're not photogenic. I don't know, it's crazy. It's definitely a subject that I think will only have to be brought up more and more as the years and decades go on. So this person is 16 years old. They're in the thick of it, right? So they're literally like growing as a human. Their brains are developing. And this person can already tell that like, this isn't correct. Like, this isn't like a good thing to be doing. It's probably pretty damaging, and it's fucked up that people are just like, you have friends who aren't talking about how they do it, and then you have other friends who, you know, are more open about it. But regardless, you have these varying degrees of, you know, people who are just like confused and are seeing themselves a certain way. Because I personally, when I first started using FaceTune back in the day, it came like my edits of my facial features came from a place of insecurity and looking at it and being like, that's not really what I look like. Come on. Like the camera's making my nose look so much bigger than it actually is. When in reality, like maybe to a degree, but not that much, you know? So anyway, I was just very interested in this because they seemed to acknowledge the fact that like this is something that we're probably going to be having to talk about for years to come, obviously. And you know, some of the comments that people made in that video were like, it is here, we're not going to get rid of it, and honesty is the best policy, basically. I don't know which video this was on. I don't know if this was on the FaceTune one or the Chloe one, but this person said, love that you're doing this. I've been struggling a lot with body confidence and just confidence in general. Social media has definitely had a hand in my lack of confidence. I don't actually follow anyone who makes me feel rubbish about how I look, but I do still see these perfect looking girls and end up feeling shitty. So this person is an excellent example of who I was talking about isn't being reached by those disclosures. So if a gigantic influencer is saying in one photo, hey guys, I use FaceTune to edit my photos, you know, those images are being shared all over social media. Like once you put it out, especially if it's like someone who has a lot of influence, that goes all over the internet. Like it just runs, you know? And one of my points was that it's your disclosure of using that app isn't going to reach everyone. And it's still, even if they are reading your disclosure, they're not necessarily like understanding how it's affecting them still. Because if you're disclosing it and you're using this editing app, you're making it seem like it's okay to completely change the way that you look and put it out there. And if you are disclosing it, but it's not reaching those people who aren't seeing the disclosure are just seeing this image that's completely edited and they're like, oh, this is what really popular people look like. And this is why they're popular. Actually, that's really interesting because one of the people who was mentioned was Bella Hadid. Now, we all know that she's had plastic surgery. She had a nose job for sure. And like, I remember seeing her, just her, like when she first like became like a supermodel or whatever the fuck, nose is perfect. And I was like, oh, I love her nose. She has the most perfect nose. Then you see this photo of her when she's younger and she has like a regular nose, like a regular person nose, right? We're not all born supermodels. So she got this surgery to make her look, in her eyes, more beautiful, maybe more marketable. She wants to be a model. Maybe she didn't think that she would be, you know, modeling with the other nose. And that's one of the points that I made. I don't know, I feel like I'm getting off subject here, but quickly, that's one of the points that I was making in my Chloe video. There's a reason that these people are doing this thing to themselves, and it's because they feel like they have to. Like Bella, it's not like Bella is like, I'm going to get this perfect nose job so that I can influence other people to do it. That's clearly not her motivation. At least I don't think so. I think it's probably more, I don't feel comfortable with this nose. I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel like I can be a model. And my life would just be so much better if I could just have this perfect nose. And the argument is to be made that like, well, she's one of the most well-known, successful models out there now. I mean, who doesn't know Bella Hadid? Would she be that successful with the other nose? This leads me into another, wait, did I completely get off topic? Because this leads me into another comment. This person said, this is all society's fault. People will just keep getting more insecure as beauty standards change. And it was the beginning of that. This is just society's fault. Where I was like, yeah, but society's made up of us. We are society. Like when you say it's all society's fault. People make up society. Now, yes, there are all kinds of arguments to be made. And once again, I mean, this is just like too big a subject to cover in this one video. All kinds of arguments to be made that like society's standards or beauty standards are set by a particular gender and what they deem beautiful over like, you know, the history of civilization. Totally other topic. I mean, not a totally other topic because they're all connected, but I just cannot get into all of that today. So if we're just distilling society's fault, I think that's just such an easy way of putting it. No offense to the comment leaver, but saying like this is just society's fault. Insecurities are going to grow or change or whatever as, I mean, that's a good point that insecurities are going to change. I don't think that insecurities are going to go away. They'll never go away. As long as we as people have developed and our brains have developed, because that's where these things come from. The way we look at things, the way we decide that things are attractive what makes us different from other animals is the evolution of our brain, right? It's not just about like survival and mating or whatever. Like we have, and it is true that we have as a society, I'm getting ahead of myself, decided certain beauty standards. And again, the origins of which are up for debate. They're not up for debate really, but it's another subject. We can talk about that sometime. Where was I going with that? My point is that when you say this is society's fault, you're just pointing at more people. You're just pointing at people. You're saying it's people's fault. And yes, we are all people, and our views and our ideas of what is beautiful affect everything. It's like, we can't point the blame at like one thing in particular. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So that's why I think making these videos and talking about this stuff is so important, because it's kind of like, okay, well, let's get to the root of it. Like, let's see, like, you have to ask these questions and be like, okay, well, oh, sorry, it's so dry in here. Yeah, I don't know. Part of it is just kind of like people looking for someone to blame and not necessarily looking for solutions to it. I think it's important to talk about like where these things come from and how they evolve. It's pretty fascinating to think about like beauty standards, how they started, how they've evolved throughout time. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing. And it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, they've evolved and it's brought us to this point. And if there are certain aspects of it that we don't like, we can change it by talking about it. Like I said in, I say this often, but it's like the only way that you can really change things is by having these discussions, breaking it down, trying to understand where it came from, why, and not just saying like, well, it's this person's fault or it's this fault. Like it's their fault. Because you're not going to get anywhere with that, you know? And I feel like in today's world, it's so the default for people to be like, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault, and not actually like talk to other people and try to get to the root of it and figure out like, well, how can we change it? Like, shouldn't that be everyone's whatever? I feel like I'm getting off topic. One more comment that I wanted to read that I don't know if this will even still be relevant after this long ramble. This other person said, I'm sorry, this was on the video where I talked about Chloe. I would use that app. Sounds like fun. Maybe she just likes to play with it. And I was like, okay, maybe you're trolling. Like maybe you're just, you know that this isn't, like maybe the person who left that is just kind of like, oh, fuck you guys. Like, I just want to like poke at you, whatever, to get a response. I don't know. But it's kind of that like dismissing it, the conversation and the severity of, I'm not saying that like, here's the thing. It's not like people are, well, they could. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself again. I was going to say it's not like people could die, but suicide rates in teens have skyrocketed. And it's very understandable why. I mean, like with like bullying online, wild. Like I can tell you right now, I grew up in the age of AIM, okay? Instant messenger. And that shit got ruthless, all right? Sometimes it was ruthless. Like, what are you, like, where are you going? Were you just so confused? The camera has a mind of its own. Anyway, anytime anonymity gets involved, you start to see, okay, for real? Like, I'm right here. Aren't I beautiful? When anonymity gets involved, people feel like they can do whatever they want. I can't remember what I was saying because I started yelling at my camera. It all comes down to social media, obviously. Well, anyway, it was those comments that I found them interesting because it presented to me all the different views that you guys have. And there are so many different views. That's kind of what I like about it, because when I bring up these topics, I see so many different opinions and viewpoints. And, you know, sometimes there are people who disagree with me completely, but they make a really good point as to why. And I'm like, I agree with you. Like I said, I don't think these apps are they're not going to go away. They're probably just going to get worse, honestly. But the best thing that we can do is talk about them and understand that, like, it's not real life. And I was telling somebody else in the comments that, like, I want everything to just become, like, super high fashion, like, where it's almost, like, ugly is beautiful. ugly, like what we decide is ugly. Like I had somebody recently tell me that like my platinum hair and my like dark circles is like such a vibe. And I was like, yeah, dude, like I want that kind of vibe. Like natural skin, like that fuck it attitude. Like why do I have to look cute for you? You know? Me personally, I mean I love makeup, don't get me wrong, like I fucking love it, and I love like a bougie ass outfit, all for it. But I'm becoming so attracted to that sort of like New York vibe where it's like investing in like bomb ass clothes and just looking like a piece of artwork with what you wear, naked face, killer jewelry. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it varies with like everyone's personal evolution. But regardless of like what your focus is on, if it's makeup or clothing or whatever, because I think that apps like FaceTune and all these other editing apps, they can enhance the art of it, you know? And I kind of feel like that should be the point of them. It's the distorting facial features and what that does to people who are not fully developed, who don't understand how these things influence them. So yeah. I don't really have any questions. This was kind of a follow-up, but I guess you could let me know if you want to see more videos like this, where I kind of like follow up on previous videos. Because there are times when I'm like responding to the comments and I'm like, oh, I want to make a video right now and just like talk to this person. Because like I said, the whole point of this is that like we're having a discussion, like we're chatting. It seems one way because I'm just talking to the camera right now. But as soon as I get on and I start reading your comments, I'm like, it's so much fun. That's it. I'm just having so much fun with this. It's so illuminating. All right? Great talk.